welcome.
Thank you.
Lila.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm really happy you were like, yes, I'll do it. I was
so keen.
yeah. And I also thought you might have been like in Toronto. I wasn't sure you were going to be here.
Yeah, I was in Montreal for the last 2 years, but now I'm back.
Yeah. So I know you went to Montreal to study music production and sound engineering.
Totally.
Classical training.
I did.
You started playing the cello.
I did.
You're like, I don't know. I feel like when I started to read about you, I was like, holy shit.
Oh, stop
Like
it.
she's very I don't know, whole as a musician,
thank you.
sound engineer, sound
That's so
producer,
sweet.
music producing, classical training, and then you're doing your own music, of course, and then you have some songs that kind of folksy, kind of like Bright Eyes, and I was like, maybe she's like a fan of Bright Eyes, and then there's one that's kind of like Nirvana, and I'm like, this is my kind of girl, this is my kind of music. It's really and your the way you also tie your music videos to your songs is also so goosebumpy.
Oh, thank you.
It's very artistic and heartwarming, and also I don't know how to describe it. It's just very abstract but ethereal and
Thank you.
dreamy, and because even your folksy songs have these dreamy choruses, which just is it's you honestly, you're a great musician.
Oh, that's so sweet.
But then how did you move from playing the cello to be I want to just
pursue contemporary music?
Yeah. Because cello is also a great instrument.
Oh my God, I love the cello.
Yeah.
I went through a phase where I was not a fan. In the angsty preteen years where everyone rebels against something. My rebellious phase was not wanting to play the cello, which is kind of lame. But I just didn't love the rigidity of it. I really wanted to be playing contemporary music, and I didn't know it at the time, but I wanted to be writing contemporary music. Now I'm super grateful for having had that classical training, and I love to sneak strings into things that you don't think that you're listening to the song and you're like, oh, this is a great song, and then you throw strings in there and you're like, oh, this is a totally different vibe. I just think strings add such a different element to pop songs. It's not as common. And so that's a way that cello's kind of infused my career. But yeah, I think I just grew up listening to a lot more contemporary music. And so I always was drawn to that. And I felt like cello was so far from that. Now, being on the other side of classical training, I can look back and be like, no, you fool, they're related. But at the time was kind of hard to see that, I guess. But yeah, it was honestly kind of in a rebellion from wanting to depart from classical music and focus on contemporary music that kind of drove me to songwriting. And I, for a long time, didn't incorporate cello into my music or even think about it when I was writing. Yeah. Because I just wanted it to be a totally separate thing. But now it's come full circle, and I'm bring in the strings. Get them in here. Yeah. So yeah, it's come back around.
And how was who were you rebelling against? Or what were you rebelling against? Was it are your parents musicians? Did they get you into playing cello specifically?
They definitely got me into playing cello. Me and my two sisters all have an instrument that we started learning at a really young age, which I'm really grateful for. And both my parents are music fans. My dad plays a lot of instruments, but he's not a musician, just a passion thing. So I think they just kind of knew how important it is to have music, or for them anyways, it was really important to have their kids grow up surrounded by music. So I think that's why, yeah, my family's musical, even though it's not, I'm the only one in my family that's pursuing music, I guess. Yeah. My sister's a very talented violinist, so I shouldn't say pursuing music, but that's not the career path she wants to take necessarily. But yeah, it was always made really important to me that my dad really loved playing us vinyl records when we were kids, and so that's always been a really big part of my life, is hunting down good vinyl deals and finding new music that way. And I think that kind of influenced what I was playing on the cello, like I wanted to be playing the Beatles and I was playing like Chopin.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
for me at the time. I've come back to loving classical music, but there was a rough patch for my relationship with classical music for a while.
Yeah.
I think I was just kind of rebelling against myself almost, of just like I had this classical training for so long and I don't know, wanted to like make a name for myself because I felt like that was a decision that was made for me so early in my life because I started playing cello when I was like 4.
Wow. Yeah. Baby.
Yeah, baby, like child. So yeah,
I was not doing anything serious at that age.
Hey, I didn't say I was good. That's just when it started.
Just banging the cello.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, I just felt like maybe that was, I think the rebellion was kind of just coming off of the heels of like that decision being sort of made for me when I was a kid, which I'm grateful for now. But I think at 13 or 14, it was kind of hard to see that as a positive thing, I guess.
Yeah. Which is also pretty, okay, yeah, I get it. And then like now that you're, pursuing, contemporary music, being like that musician.
Yeah.
Like what do your parents say? Are they still like encouraging you, or are they like, you should go back to playing cello?
No, they're very supportive.
Okay.
Yeah. I think what was important to them was that I just follow the thing that I love. So like when I had to have the conversation with them where I was like, I think I want to stop taking cello lessons because I want to take guitar lessons instead. They were really supportive.
And you're like the fear of disappointment.
Exactly.
And they were like, it's fine.
Yeah. I remember crying because my dad told me that he wanted me to play cello at his funeral, which is like a dark thought to
parents always do that also. It's like, oh, I'm going to, scar you.
Yeah, exactly.
Early on as to what I'm thinking.
It's my last wish.
Yeah. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
But I don't
I
want to lose you.
Yeah. And he was like, I was just playing a piece that he really liked. He's like, I want you to play that at my funeral. And then I remember crying to my mom because I was like, I want to stop cello lessons, but Dad wants me to play at his funeral. It's like, I can still do that. I can still play the cello. Like it's in me. But I remember that being an issue.
You're like, Dad, could you just like give me like a 2-week notice?
Yeah.
Like
when you're
planning on, and then I can.
And then I'll like take lessons again. Yeah. So that was the disappointment that I was like scared of. But no, I've always felt like my parents are pretty supportive of, what career path I wanted to take, which I'm lucky for. I don't think a lot of people get that. So
yeah. Well done, Mom and Dad. They're like, I don't care if you
whatever.
I don't need your approval.
You want to be a broke musician? Like that's fine.
Yeah. Like when you switched to playing guitar, this was when you were 14, 13, 14?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
And what was like why that switch? Why were you like was it a band like that you were trying to, kind of? Yeah. Or was it more like I just kind of done, but I still want to do music, and guitar is like the closest thing?
I felt like guitar was like a way easier instrument to write lyrics to.
Oh, okay.
Could not. Maybe there are people in this world who can. I cannot write lyrics to a cello. Like I can add the cello once I've got the lyrics, but it's not helpful for the writing process. So yeah, like I started writing songs just with no instrument and like just melody in my head being like, this is how it's gonna sound. I don't know what instrument it's gonna be. And then eventually I was like, I should probably learn an instrument that's like I can use that as a tool to build a song. So that's kind of why I picked up guitar, was I felt like it was an easier tool for songwriting.
Like songs.
Yeah. And like especially pop music is like 90% the same chords. So like you learn the basics and then that's a nice jumping off point obviously, but like you could just coast there in neutral forever learning like G, C, and D. So that's how it started, was just like as a tool for songwriting kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do you like approach your songwriting? Do you usually like send yourself like notes? Do you have like immediately like lyrics and then switch to like building the melody on it, or vice versa, or a bit of both?
It sounds like a really like played out answer, but I feel like it depends on the song a little bit. For the longest time I would write the full song in my notes app or like on paper, and then I would find a melody for it. That was like before learning guitar, and then that kind of hung around for a little bit. But now I mean, my notes app, I'm constantly writing little like 1 line, 2 line, or sometimes it's like a chorus that I get in my head. I'm like sitting on the bus and it just comes to me or whatever. So my notes app is horrifying. It's like, and I have it, I don't know if this is worse or better. Like I used to break it down into separate notes. Now it's like literally 1 page.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you can keep scrolling and scrolling. It's fucked up.
I mean, I'm no musician, but if you can, I also have like the 3 notes that are
like crucial.
Yeah, and they're like the música y mezcal notes, for example, is just the one, and it's just like
so long. It's a book.
Yeah, and I'm like, I should probably
organize this at some point.
But I just it's not how my brain works.
Yeah, no,
very dispersed.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, so like my notes app is a mess. It's just 1 giant note, and sometimes honestly, it's a good tool because sometimes I'll just like scroll and then I stop and I'm like, oh. Right. That's cool or whatever. And then also I use voice
so it's like
memos.
the roulette.
Yeah, exactly. Just and stop. Yeah. And voice memos is like a disaster too. For a while I named them and then I fell off and now it's like voice memo, I don't know, 2000 and something. Like, wow, I can't go back now. It's just all of them are unnamed. It's horrifying. So
how many do you have? Do you really have like 2000?
I bet I could look. I think it's not 2000. I think it's more like 500, but still that's and there's before that I was on a naming train for like a while. So there might be 1,000 notes in there.
Wow.
But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you still like save it somewhere else that's not your phone?
Yeah, I usually
just in case
just in case something happens. I usually send it to my best friend who's also a musician. We send each other song ideas back and forth like multiple times a week. So usually like if I need to find it, it's somewhere in our like email thread or like iMessage or whatever. Okay. So that's like the other place. But yeah, hopefully my phone doesn't like kick it. And, or nearing 1,000 voice memos or not. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That would be unfortunate.
You also, I noticed, I might be wrong, but I feel like you have, songs that you write about love are kind of, like written towards like the ocean more than like the skies, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, like, do you dream of the ocean or like of the...
Actually, this is really funny that you mentioned this. I had a dream last night that all I was doing was floating in the ocean.
Yeah.
That was it. That was the whole dream. I was just like sat there floating.
Yeah, even your videos.
Yeah,
there's
there's
like
a lot
I feel
of water.
I feel like
my director hates me for this.
Yeah.
Every time I bring her a new idea, she's like, "Water, really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it wouldn't be my video if there wasn't water in it." Yeah, I don't know why that started happening. It's just like how some music.
Yeah, it's like how some musicians are like, I don't know, they use like the moon a lot or the sun or and
water is my thing.
Water is your thing, and but I can totally like I dream of like the ocean. I have like several dreams from nightmares to like really good dreams of me either like being at the ocean and the ocean, like controlling the ocean, like speaking to it, which is kind of weird. Like communicating with it.
With the ocean.
Yeah. So I don't know. I felt kind of connected when I listened to your music. I was like, I feel like maybe she's dreamt a lot about the ocean.
Yeah.
Or like, and that's how like that's your muse or one of your muses.
I love that. I've never actually like thought about that as being like a muse, but I think you're totally right. I think you've like hit the nail on the head. I don't know. I had a really big obsession with mermaids when I was a kid. So I don't know if that's like what formed it. It's possible. But yeah, I love including like visuals of water. I think, I don't know, like there's not really another kind of like medium. I guess, like flying would be one, but for some reason that's not as like connected for me. But yeah, there's like some kind of just realm of visuals that you can only get from describing water. Like floating is such a crazy feeling and everyone knows exactly what you're talking about when you talk about it. Or like drowning, hopefully people don't have an idea of what that's like, but you could imagine some understanding of what it would be like.
You probably had that one scare when you were like,
get me out.
Yeah. And you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, that felt terrifying.
That was awful. Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's like such an easy way to bond with people, I guess, writing about like that's an experience that everyone can relate to in some way of like being in touch with water. I think more than like flying, you know, that's not really an experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Most
Still
people have.
yeah, like,
yeah. If you do, let me know.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you go
How
about
do you do that?
Yeah. Because I feel like there are, you know, like many lyrics or they talk about like, you know, like, or floating in the air when they talk about love or when they talk about, love or like infatuation or whatever, or like soaring through the skies or feeling, you know, like high or, but I don't know. I felt like, oh yeah, like it's like going deep and diving and like, you know, you feel this surroundness.
Yeah, totally. You're like in it. You're in something. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of, I just totally related to that. And I was like, I feel like I want to ask her.
Yeah.
If she's like dreamt about, you know.
I've never had that question before too. This is my new favorite question.
Nice. Yeah. Ask Lila that.
Yeah.
But I asked it first.
She got it first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, nobody cares.
I care.
Thank you. That's what matters.
Yeah.
And like when you started already, you know, building your songs on guitar, how long did it take for you to like go from, you know, writing songs without that instrument to like, okay, now I can, like, I can't wait to get home and like
sit with my instrument
and then build on that. Like, was it right away? Because like you already had, you know, this musical training.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's like that switch is like kind of quick or not.
Yeah. I don't know. I think like for a while I tried to get my dad to teach me guitar, which was not super successful. He taught me like some blues patterns, so that was cool, but like not super useful for like the kind of music that I like to write.
Yeah.
So once I started going to guitar lessons and like learning chord shapes and like learning, you know, I don't know, like what a capo does, just like small things. Once I understood the instrument more, there was more of a bond there. And so, then I started to gravitate towards like just writing with my guitar. And I don't know if I could write a full song and have a melody now without having guitar with me, which is kind of weird because that's how it started. But yeah, there is like just something to be said for that connection that you feel with your instrument. And totally, like you said, that feeling of like, I just can't wait to get home and like sit with my guitar and figure something out. That's a feeling I get quite often. So yeah, I wouldn't change that feeling for like being able to write a song without a guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you ever have like this need of writing percussions? Because you do have some songs where you like or you have a song at least that I remember that you pat like the guitar,
the body of the guitar.
Yeah, the body of the guitar. Do you ever like feel like, oh, I thought of the percussions first before the guitar?
Not particularly. I wish that's the way that my brain worked. Like percussion is often something that I struggle with because I think drums totally make or break a song. You know, like it just feels like the heartbeat of the song. Yeah. You know? And like it feels, I don't know, and there's like a big fill. You just like, I don't know. I love drums and
that was a great way to describe it. Yeah, like the heartbeat of the song.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I want to get better with my percussion composition, but no, sadly that's not like the way that I think about it. I think I will like kind of to that point when I write a song, like I have a song that's coming out later in the year and it was so important to me that the drums felt a certain way. So I didn't know like how, like what the pattern was going to be or whatever, but I kind of described that feeling to the drummer and he totally got it, but it was more of like a feeling thing instead of a composition thing.
How do those conversations go? I feel like sometimes musicians are like extremely abstract. Yeah. Which is kind of cool because it's like I guess I could also like have a conversation of what I'm feeling. Yeah. I just can't materialize it. Totally. So that's like because I'm not a musician. Yeah. So I'm just going to be able to like maybe describe how I'm feeling and then be like, could you
put this into
musical, something?
Yeah. Something. Yeah.
But like, is it like a back and forth when you're like, well, I feel like I want it to, you know, feel a little bit like this, like that. And then he's like, or she's, you know, playing.
I don't know. I mean, this is something that I face a lot as like a producer because there's a lot of musicians I work with who are like, I want it to feel like there's sparkles here. And I'm like, I don't know what that means, but let's get to that point. So I often use like references to kind of bridge that like translation gap between something someone's feeling. And that works like both ways when I'm a producer or when I'm an artist. So yeah, for like the drums on this upcoming track, I described what the feel was, what I wanted, kind of like the sound. And then I sent references. I sent like 2 track references, and I was like, this one's more for feeling, and then this one's like more for tone.
Okay.
And I think between me talking basically nonsense at him about like, I want it to feel like you're running and like whatever, I can't even remember the words that I used. And then also being like, and here are the concrete, like, here's something you can listen to that actually makes sense. We got there. So yeah, he nailed it. But yeah, that's kind of my like tool for translating those abstract thoughts. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And have you ever, been like producing where you can't like understand the musician, the artist, you're like, I really don't get it. I don't get it. Like I can't, I don't have
understand.
like the bridge you need.
Yeah. I have had that. I've managed to like find it. It's just like a lot more patience testing, I guess. Like what I have ended up doing is I'm like, okay, send me your references. And then I try and get at what I think they're getting at. And I'll compose something or whatever. And I send it back. And they're like, oh, I don't like this or whatever. And I'm like, tell me why you don't like that. And how can I make it better going from that point? Like, it's kind of like you just want to get the first thread and then you can kind of unravel it from there and kind of get to the point. Hopefully. I've yet to have hit a wall with an artist where I'm like, I truly don't know what you're talking about. You just need to walk away from this idea. I'm determined to like find the thing that the person's talking about. Yeah. So yeah, sometimes it just takes a little bit more like, poking around before you get to
scratching your brain.
Yeah.
Do you think some of your like process from working as a musician to now being producer and like sound engineer and have changed now that you write your own music?
Yeah, definitely.
Like now do you go like, oh, I should probably just, I can skip this step.
Yeah.
Because I can go straight to
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of like skipping steps or like I won't necessarily do a demo when I'm producing something for myself. I'll just like start into the project and I'm like, okay, let's make a drum loop or whatever instead of just a voice memo. Sometimes I'll just be like, okay, I have an idea. I'm going to record some guitar right now. And like, instead of doing that kind of in between, not always, like sometimes I want to kind of sit with it and see where I want to take it. For instruments, I had another thought about, what was I going to say? I had another thought.
The steps you skip.
Yeah, the steps I skip.
Like sometimes you skip steps and sometimes.
Yeah. Why is this thought not coming to me? I don't know. Anyways, yeah, that is a skip that I step. That's also not correct. Step that I skip.
Yeah.
Good Lord. I've been thinking about the words too long. Don't want to get tangled in the weeds like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I honestly, my theory is like when sometimes like an idea escapes you, it's because it either isn't relevant.
It's not important.
Yeah. Or you're
I would
just,
say it'll
or
come
you're
back
just like
if
very
it's
tired.
important. Yeah.
If it's important, it'll come back. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll walk out of the door and I'll be like, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. Which is kind of annoying when it happens. And you're like, now is the wrong time.
Yeah. Just leave it at that point. Like, don't come back to me.
Your brain administrators. Just,
stop firing. Yeah. I honestly don't remember what else I was going to say about that. I do remember what I was going to say.
Nice. Okay.
Yes. I think when I'm writing songs, I think a lot more about like the whole composition as opposed to just like the song itself. Like I think I used to write and be like, okay, lyrically, what are we thinking here? And really concentrate on that. And now I think I write lyrics in mind with like, okay, I know I want to have drums in this song, or like I want to have this like instrumental break at the bridge or whatever. I think more in the composition sense and less in like a lyrical way. And I don't know if that's just like a phase I'm going through, where I'm like really excited about like instruments, I guess. But yeah, I think I write more with like the finished product in mind as opposed to just like, what am I writing right now? But that might just be a phase that I'm going through.
Yeah. We'll find out.
We'll find out. Stay tuned.
So you have 2 albums. The first one was in 2021.
Yeah.
And then you released one in 2023.
I did.
So the one from 2021, was this like during like COVID?
Lockdown.
Or was it more like you had been working on it for a while and then, you released it, and then COVID hit?
Yeah.
And then everyone knows what
Everything
happened.
Shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd been writing it for a while. Production, we started, I think we were supposed to start and then everything locked down. So we actually did most of it on Zoom, which was weird.
Yeah.
And then there was that like period in 2020 over the summer where everything kind of opened up a little bit. So I was actually able to go into the studio and like record things. But yeah, it had been in the works before COVID, just like writing wise. And I talked with the producer I was working with at the time before everything shut down. And then it was like, oh, here's a bump. Like, how are we going to do this? But it was nice because I had a lot of time to just like sit at home and write. Like there were songs that I wasn't expecting to put on that album that ended up on that album because I had the luxury of time. And I was like, you know what, this doesn't fit anymore. But this new one I wrote, let's put that in that place. So it was a different album, I think, than it would have been if COVID hadn't happened. So kind of weirdly grateful for that, I guess.
Yeah.
Like something different.
And then the album you released in 2023. Was this like you writing during COVID, or was it more like it was pretty quick?
Yeah,
like
it was like kind of a blend, which is a boring answer, but the title track Wild Tension I wrote when I was like 15, like before COVID, and I actually don't know why I didn't put it on my first album. I think I wrote it and I was just like, I don't think this is right for this album, and that was a good feeling to listen to because it worked out well for this album. So that was a long time coming, that track, and I kind of forgot about it for a while, and then I was like, oh, I remember this. I think I was like flipping through old like songwriting books, and I was like, oh, I totally forgot about this. And then that kind of ended up being like to use an ocean metaphor, the buoy for the rest of the album that I kind of like tethered everything to. So yeah, I wrote most of it before I started production, but then as I was producing those tracks, more ideas came to me just like solely through like listening through the ideas and like threads that I had pulled at in other songs. I was like, oh, that's a cool angle to approach that from. Let's follow that thought or whatever. So yeah, I think it was a little bit of both. Like it started way back when I was like 15, and then once I got into production, writing like continued, and then it that's why there's the deluxe, because I was like, I have so many ideas for these same songs, like let's just keep going. So yeah, it was a long process, but worth it.
Okay, that was actually my follow-up question. Like, why did you decide then to do the deluxe? But yeah, you just said
that's
why.
Yeah, because I wrote those songs. There's 3 songs extra on the deluxe, and they're all alternative versions of songs that were already, 2 of them were already on that album, and one of them was on the album previous. And I wrote one of them in a completely different way than it turned out in the original version of the album. And I was like, I want to have both of these out. So they're 2 totally different feelings. That song's Treason, in case anyone's curious. The first version of Treason is like kind of angry and like super dancey. And then the second one is like really sad. And I like to say it's like my Bond theme song. There's a lot of strings. And then Oxygen, I knew a Vancouver artist, Eva, and I just thought her voice would be perfect on it. And she wrote a verse for it, and it was like perfect. And yeah, so I just wanted to like tack on that extra like oomph of other ways those songs could have turned out, I guess. Yeah.
You've also collaborated with other musicians to like write and co-write songs. Like how do you approach, the whole writing music when you're with somebody else? Do you like hold back stuff that you're like, well, this is something that I always do when I'm by myself. Yeah. But I don't know if I could do this with you. So you're like, you just, because it is a very vulnerable thing. Totally. So like, you're like, maybe I shouldn't be that vulnerable at the beginning. Yeah. Or do you just go like all in, like, this is what I do and this is what I think about. We're going to go this. For it. Yeah.
It kind of depends on who I'm writing with and like the vibe that I get from them. I've been lucky enough to work with a lot of my friends, so it's been easy to be vulnerable with them.
Yeah.
So yeah, like writing with Asa Nabuko, who's also a Vancouver artist, and then Asia Jordan, who was actually my former roommate, who is the friend I was talking about earlier that we just like send music ideas to each other constantly.
Okay,
So
yeah.
she's like arguably my favorite writing partner just because there's like no filters. So both of us can kind of just express exactly what we want. So we always get to like the root of what we want the song to be about. But yeah, I think it depends on who I'm collaborating with. And yeah, I like have been lucky enough to like not have a bad collaboration experience happen yet. So, and hopefully ever, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But you never know. So I've always felt like the creative spaces I've been in for co-writing have been pretty safe. So expressing feelings or whatever are easy. But I think the process is always different because it's always different people and everyone works a different way. And that's kind of what's nice about collaborating is it's like something fresh. And it always, if I'm in a rut, like collaborating with someone is a good kind of lane to walk down because it breaks me out of that cycle that I tend to get stuck in. So yeah.
Is there anything that like when you're writing with them that you're like, oh, that's kind of cool how you approach like, you know, how to start like writing chorus or you're like, I don't do that, but that's kind of cool. And then you're like slowly incorporated into like the way you start writing.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, just to keep talking about Asia because I love her.
Shout out to Asia.
Shout out to Asia. I always do this. I can't like not talk about her ever. But I really admire her lyricism. Like she's less focused on the composition, like instrumentally, and she's very focused on lyrics. And like she's just really unmatched when it comes to songwriting. Like she finds these metaphors and things that I wouldn't even think to use.
That's kind of cool.
And uses like language that I'm like, right, that's a word that exists. Like that's a crazy cool, like 3-syllable word that you could have used a really, colloquial term for, but instead you're like using this crazy word that maybe not everyone knows what it means or whatever. So every time I finish writing with her, I always like take a step back, and the next time I'm writing by myself and I'm like, think about the lyrics first. And it's this nice like change. It's almost like kind of back to what I was saying when I started songwriting. Like that's what it started as. And I like that I've got these other elements now, but it is nice to have that reminder to be like, this is why you got into it. This is what like how it started. Go back to that like lyric driven place. So that's like often a reminder that I get just from working with Asia is like focus on the lyrics.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
that's kind of
really cool.
And it's kind of, I feel like, I guess there's also like some musicians that when I listen to them, I'm like, that was a crazy way to describe something. I'm like, how does your brain work?
Yeah.
Like, do you read a lot? Like, I always think like maybe they read a lot.
Yeah.
Like, how do they come up with these either like funny, witty, ways of describing something or like something like extremely like deep and profound and super like, like mind-blowing kind of metaphors or and I'm always curious like what does their day-to-day look like? Like how do they come up with
what are
this?
they intaking that comes
what do they feed their brain to have that output? Because it's like
vocabulary.
Because it's like, well, when I read, because I honestly don't read much now, which is really sad. I used to read a lot, but like now I don't know. I'm just tired.
Fair. So fair.
I'm just tired. But it is something that I've been meaning to like, it's been like, I don't know, I guess the past 3 years where I'm like, I'm gonna go back to reading and I'm gonna go back to reading. Yeah,
totally.
And I don't. But even when I did, I'm like, I don't know if I would come up with those, like metaphors or ways to describe something, any situation or place or person or, so yeah, I don't know, like what exactly is it that they feed their eyes and brains and, ears to have.
I often like, I am a big reader and I think I get from me personally, like, I think I get a lot of my inspiration from like different writers. And yeah, even if it's not like you know, me writing about like the content of the book. It's like learning a new word or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. Because you related, like when you learn that word, you related to something.
Yeah, that
like,
you can like kind of like bank it in your mind with.
Yeah. And so then you're able to like, you know, describe something because you related to that word earlier or whatever.
Yeah.
But I feel like lately I don't like that doesn't happen. I don't know why. I feel like usually like lately I just forget. Yeah. I feel like my brain is just like
tired.
Yeah. I can't remember stuff and I'm like, why don't I was usually really good at like remembering, you know, phrases from movies or stuff like, you know, like dialogues or stuff like that. And now I'm like,
it's gone. Yeah. Maybe
like, what
your
happened?
brain's like concentrating on other aspects of your life, you know, or it's like filtering better.
I don't know.
It's like, this isn't important.
I was like, to remember this. I don't know if it's better. I guess there's just a lot of white noise in this world. So
true.
I'm just
there's
like
so much to intake. Your brain's just like, no, this isn't happening.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So yeah, we'll ask Asia.
Yeah.
Sooner than later.
Yeah.
We'll have
what
you
is
here.
she intaking?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
She'll be like, well, I eat greens and I'm like, no, but like
I work out a lot.
Yeah.
Of course you do.
Well, that's not happening.
It's not happening.
Anyway. So now that you've been releasing Haunt.
Yes.
You released Haunt.
Yeah.
You haven't been released. You released Haunt.
It's but it's new. Yeah.
Are you still like releasing throughout the course of this year?
Mm-hmm.
Is this for like a new album? Is it just for like, you know, like just like kind of like a 4-song kind of deal?
It's for an album. I'm excited. Yeah. I think this is like the first time I've talked about it like publicly. So yeah, it is for an album.
This just in, people.
This just in. An exclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is for an album. I have a couple songs that I'm going to put out as singles this year. And then I don't think the album will come out this year. I think I'm going to push that off a little bit. I'm just like, yeah, I felt like in my last album, I made some decisions like creatively that I was mostly concentrated on like deadlines and not
so you
so
compromised.
Yeah, I compromised some ideas because I was like, well, I said it was coming out that like, you know, this date. So
I have to
let's just do this.
It.
Yeah, this will just work. And so like this album cycle, I'm just pretty determined to like not make that happen. And I just want to have the art be what it's supposed to be and just trust that process. Yeah. And like not make decisions on like a timeline and just, you know, be concentrated on, does this sound good for the song?
Yeah.
Great. Then let's do that and take our time with that. But yeah, there are a couple tracks that are done and we're ready to get out there. So
nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited.
So for this song, how did you bring in ideas for the video? Was it more like, you know, this is the song and, you know, tell me what you think?
Yeah. I
just want water.
Yeah. Just like water. That's all I need. Pretty much. I am lucky to have a really awesome creative team. I work with this like power couple, Maddie and Tyler. You guys know how awesome you are. And they did we met actually for the Oceans video, another water video, in the spring of 2023. We met through Asa, who was part of that whole experience. Yeah, my co-writer on that song. And yeah, she introduced us and we just like, they're like my creative soulmate people. Yeah. Like, I don't know. We always have very similar ideas and we're able to, you know, like feed off of each other's energy and come up with new ideas. So I brought them the song in like, I think August or something like that, before it came out. And I kind of explained what it was about. And I think I said something to do with water. I think I had, because that verse, the second verse, I say, I'm at the water's edge. I think I was like, I want to do something with water. And yeah, I honestly can't really remember now, like who came up with the concrete idea, but I think it was mostly
like going in.
Yeah, like having a bit of a story through it. I think it was mostly Maddie because she's the director and she usually has the genius ideas. So yeah, I think I'll give credit to Maddie because I'm pretty sure it was her who kind of came up with that whole idea. Yeah, and she's really good at like interpreting my thoughts on like what I wrote the song about, and then turning that into like a story, or at least like a visual format. So yeah, they're awesome. They're so easy to work with because they get me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it works both ways, I think. So
Do you feel like those conversations that you have, like, but I mean, I'm assuming they're different, but like the conversation you have as an artist with, you know, a producer is like different than with someone who's trying to do like visuals for your song.
Yeah.
So like is it still like very abstract, or is it a lot more like, I want to jump into blah 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 and I want to like move like this, or
it's kind of what I'm finding is like depending on the video. Like I don't think I really had an idea what I wanted with the haunt video. I just wanted more of like these specific feelings to be portrayed through it.
Okay.
So in that sense, that one was a lot more abstract. We're working on a video right now that I like came up with the idea for, or like a rough outline for the video. As soon as I finished this, like writing the song, I was like, this is what needs to happen. So I brought Maddie that idea, and we've like bounced back and forth and kind of found a storyline that we're both satisfied with. But Haunt, I think it was a lot more abstract, and it was more just me being like, this is what I wrote it about. Here are the feelings that I, you know, tried to infuse the music with. That's what I want in the video. And she was able to come up with this concept that I'm happy to report that it did its job. So
Nice.
yeah. So it kind of depends on the video. Sometimes I have ideas and sometimes I don't. And Maddie's good at both options.
Do you ever like imagine, you know, like this story when you're writing a song that you're like, oh, this would be like great. Like I want this story on a video.
I haven't done that yet. I mean, I think like when I look at like when I'm in the process of making an album, I kind of tend to look at the track list that I've got going on, and I'm like, okay, these ones are the ones that I think would be cool to have videos with, or like would amplify the song itself to like have a visual component. But I haven't written a song yet where I'm like, as I'm writing it, I'm thinking like, oh, this is what the video should be or whatever. Sometimes I think like I'll be writing and I'm like, oh, this would be a cool one to have a video for, but I'm not necessarily thinking about like what that video is going to look like. But yeah, the upcoming video that we're working on was close to that. It was like as soon as I was done writing it and like composing pieces of the like kind of demo, I guess, I was like, oh, this is the idea for the video, and started making like a Pinterest board with all the different visuals and stuff like that. So that was, but I think that's kind of a one-off. I don't think I've really had that before. So
okay.
Yeah.
It might happen. It might not.
It might happen. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe after this. Yeah.
Do you have like, besides the ocean, do you have muses in your life? Like people,
I do.
Places that they're like, yeah, your go-to to feel inspired whenever you do, like, because I imagine you also have those days when you're like, I can't write.
Yeah. That's an easy space to get trapped in, of like, I need to write something, but what? Like that was something I really struggled with over the last year or so, was just kind of trapping myself in this creative box of like, oh my God, I haven't written in 6 months. Like, is that just it? Has the well run dry? Like no more songwriting for me.
Yeah.
And letting go of that expectation was really helpful. And Asia's back. I'm going to talk about her again. She has this metaphor that she's like, just keep running the tap until it runs clear. So like, write shitty music. If that's what you're writing right now, write the shit music. And then eventually you're going to write something that you're happy with. And like, I think I just for a while trapped myself in this box of like, everything I write has to be something that I want to put out, and it has to be good.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous, because like not all my music is stuff I want to put out. It's just like, it's a song I wrote and it's there if I want it, but it's not something that I want out in the world or whatever. But muses wise, I think they just change, like they ebb and flow. Obviously a lot of it's like relationship stuff, but not all of my songs are about like romantic relationships. Some of them are about friendships or like family dynamics. Honestly, like not to sound narcissistic, but a lot of my like muse comes from
when I look in the mirror.
Yeah, when I look in the mirror. No. Like myself not not looking at myself, but like the thoughts that I'm having in my head. It's usually just kind of like a way for me to translate what's going on in my brain to paper and being like, oh, that's what I meant by that when I'm repeating something to myself or like worrying about something in my brain. You know, writing a song about it often like kind of like wraps up the whole thing as like a package. And I'm like, oh, that's cathartic. Why I'm it's totally cathartic. Like that's why I'm thinking about that so often. But yeah, like I think I go through different phases of being inspired by different things. Yeah, right now it's a lot of like internal reflection stuff and a lot of like conversations with my therapist. So that's right now, that's my muse. But it's not always that.
I totally get it too.
Yeah.
I used to I went to therapy with like one lady, which she's great, but I don't know, it just wasn't it.
It wasn't a fit. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I went with another one and I don't know, it was okay.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't bad.
Fine.
Like it helped me. But then I just remember like one advice that she gave me about something that I was like in complete shock about. And she gave me like this advice that I was like, I don't feel at all comfortable like doing that.
Yeah.
And I didn't say anything, but like I feel like I like this is kind of dumb, but it's like I kind of carry like a small guilt because like when I went to like the next session, she asked me like, "Did you do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah, and you didn't.
And I didn't, and I was like, "But like," and then I left, and I was like, I felt bad, but then I was like, I feel like I'm still right. I feel like that's not something.
It's not something that clicks for you.
No, and I feel like it's like. Yeah, I don't want to talk about this because it's like
it's turning into a therapy session, folks.
Yeah, it's just gonna be like really. People are gonna be like, "Wait, what?"
Whoa,
wait, like that's kind of. But it involved me like writing something and like burning it, and the burning was like the thing that I was like,
not for me.
No, like I just told you something really traumatic.
Yeah,
and I can't go about and like. So it was kind of weird. And I just said like no, and then I went with another therapist, and it was like, I was like, I kind of have like a small crush on you. Yeah, like you're great, and she's great.
Yeah, if it clicks, it clicks. It's and like sometimes it just doesn't. It just doesn't work, and you're like, this is doing nothing for me. It's expensive, like whatever. Yeah, but when it clicks, it's like it's worth it. Yeah,
like even the fact that because I was a human rights lawyer, and she, like in Mexico, you earn shit money. Yeah, as a human rights lawyer, like shit money. So when I told her, she was immediately like, I know you earn shit money. Yeah. And my rate is this, but I'm not going to charge you for that. I'm going to charge you half.
Even that is like.
So simple. I was like,
yeah. Because there is that real thing of like, oh, that was a great therapy session. And then they're like, so that'll be $200. And you're like,
right. Yeah, this is just purely business. I'm sorry.
It's like that trend that's going around right now.
I thought we connected, but no, of course not.
This is a transaction. Yeah. That's like. I don't know if you've seen the trend that's going around on TikTok right now, but it's like when your car declines at therapy. So they bring out like whatever someone's like traumatic thing is. It's like your dad or like whatever you're like, or like your mean best friend from like grade 6 or whatever it is. Like the thing that you talk about in therapy. It's like, you can't pay for your therapy? Great. Like bring him in. Bring the trauma in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That was kind of, Yeah. But so like every time I talk about her, I feel like if I were, artistic, like she would definitely be a muse, because she, the way she was able to like
connect with me
without me having to tell her, like I didn't actually think of like paying less. Yeah. I was like, I was already like, I'm going to try out this first and see. Session, and then she told me and I was like, oh my God, like perfect. You won me over.
I'm good.
And then I did think like, maybe I'm just feeling like this because she's charging me less. Yeah. But that soon, like that feeling went away as soon as like my second appointment.
You were like,
yeah, I was
"Good.
like, no, she's pretty
She's
cool.
good." Yeah.
Yeah. And
Great.
she has like these, I would talk about like, I don't know, like nightmares I would have. And she would kind of like signify them, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel like she would definitely be like a muse if I were ever artistic.
Yeah. Totally.
Like
yeah.
she was able to make me understand something that was
About yourself.
that seemed to be like scary in a more like
reframed in like positive way.
in a good light.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like muses just shift and change. It's like who you're feeling connected to at that time, or like people you're not feeling connected to, and you're like, I'm gonna write about this disconnection or whatever. I think that's what's so cool about life and relationships is like, yeah, they ebb and flow so much that like, someone's your muse for a bit, and then they're not for a bit, and then they're back again or whatever. So yeah, it's just constantly changing. But yeah, right now my muse is just like focusing on like kind of organizing my own thoughts, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah. Cool.
You're like, if not, then I don't care. It's,
No,
it's my
I
thing.
I do care.
It's my thing, not yours. What do you have also like, this a question that I've had with like producers, but something that has been common with them has been like whenever they have artists coming into, you know, whatever, record something like a piece or you know, whatever, they always talk to the artist and ask them like, what color is this? And then they kind of like
go from there,
put the color like in the like some lights that with that color. Do you have that like a thing that like similar to that whenever you like try to make feel not comfortable, just like try to get in the headspace they were in when they did that song?
I like the color thing. I have synesthesia, so I really like the color thing. I might start doing that. But no, my thing is like I usually ask the artist like what they wrote the song about, because I don't want to just like go in blind and be like, okay, so sing this how you want to sing. Like I want to know the emotion behind it, as much of the experience as they're willing to tell me, so that I can kind of have an idea of like what emotions they'd be feeling, and then go from there and be like, okay, so when you get to the chorus and you're talking about this experience, like you felt really angry or whatever, so channel some of that. I remember working with an artist in Montreal, and she was telling me about this like ex-boyfriend she had that she wrote this song about. She told me why she wrote it, and like, yeah, I don't know, he was unkind to her and like super jealous. And there's just like this moment in the instrumental composition where it feels like it kind of just like everything explodes, I guess. And I was like, imagine that you're a superhero and you have like a ball of power that you're like collecting, you know, all of these experiences that you had with this person, and you're like collecting them and compacting them down. And then when the song like breaks, you like let it out. It's cathartic. And so then we just started using the superhero like analogy for everything, for different things. We're like, okay, so you've been hurt in a fight, like, but I would say that's like the only time that I've had like a concrete kind of metaphor, like tool that I've used. But I always ask the artist, like, what did you write the song about? You know, so that I have an idea of what emotions they like should be channeling, or like me as a listener, am I feeling that they're like hurt like that, or happy, or whatever emotion they're supposed to be feeling? I want to make sure that's coming through in the recording. Yeah.
Is this conversation like before? Or like, well, obviously before, but like, I mean, like before they come into the studio, or like before?
It's usually when they get to the studio, like before we start tracking vocals, because I think like playing instruments and stuff, you don't necessarily like need to know that. For production stuff, like I like to know, you know, like, okay, are we going to a minor chord here or whatever? But it's always before recording vocals, and usually when they're there, I have the conversation of like, tell me what this is, just so I have like an idea of what I'm looking for as a producer when they are recording, to make sure that it's like, you know, holding up a mirror to the experience that they wrote the song about or whatever.
So since you mentioned that you have synesthesia, what color do you like is your common color? From your like, do you have a common color in your like first album and then your second?
Yeah.
Did it change when you made it deluxe? Because like you added, like new
The extra tracks. Yeah. I mean, each of the songs kind of have their own sort of like color. But the first album, I would say the like color themes were really like green was a color that I was
like the
seeing
palette
through.
of green.
Yeah,
or...
like it was a kind of like traffic light green, if that makes sense.
Oh,
Like
okay.
super vibrant green. I don't know why. It's just like that's kind of, I guess, like the vibe that I see with that album. And then the next one, like Wild Tension, was like a soft orange. It's kind of like this. I tried to get it as close as I could in the album artwork. For that album, I'm in this kind of like yellowy orangish light. I felt it was like a really soft album, I guess. And yeah, like what's softer than that, like kind of Sunday sort of like light coming in through the window sort of light. So that's the color I see for that album. And the next one that's coming up is like a dark blue through most of it. Nice. So yeah, but I always think of it more in like song to song basis and less of like a project sort of thing. It's more of how I see it. But I like the idea of summarizing it into one color is cool. Yeah.
Does that happen like when you're like writing the song, you're like, thinking of the color kind of, or like feeling the color, I guess? Yeah, feeling the color.
Yeah. And like certain instruments have specific colors to me. So that often plays a role in it. Like if a certain instrument is like a lot more prominent, then I'm like, oh, this is like an orange song. Or
what is cello?
Orange. That's why I said orange song. Yeah. It's like a deep kind of burnt orange. So yeah, like it depends on kind of like the prominence of the different instruments, I guess. But lyrically, I get it a little bit too. But definitely like full force color spectrum comes into play when like the instruments are there, because I think that makes me like feel it more, I guess. Yeah
Cool.
Yeah
Is that why you also like you also wore like orange stuff like while you were in, I think it was Montreal, like performing? Or am I hallucinating?
No,
was it because of that or just because like you like orange?
No, I didn't wear orange. I wore, I think, are you thinking of the pink dress?
Oh,
it's like
maybe.
A really like bright pink.
Yeah. It's not orange.
Yeah, it looks orange in some of the like photos. Like the photographer like edited the photos, so that might be why. No, I just think that dress is fucking awesome. Yeah, I wore that on the Toronto stop of my tour. That was and I think collectively, me and my bandmates were like, that was the best outfit of the whole tour.
Nice.
Yeah, it's awesome.
You're like, I know.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Tell me something I don't know.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
What are your plans for this year besides, I mean, Haunt is just released.
Yeah.
What's next?
So I've got a single that'll come out kind of like beginning of summertime, and then a video that will follow that a little bit after that. But I want to play a bunch of live shows this year. Hopefully some festivals too. We'll see. But I'm in the process of booking some shows for the spring, so playing live as much as I can, and starting to roll out the next album with some singles and stuff. But just like focusing on continuing to write and like giving the album the space it needs to like come to fruition and like be the thing I want it to be, I guess. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm really happy you're here.
Yeah.
This was a really cool conversation.
Me. Yeah, it was. We went in so many different directions.
I know, right?
It's like kind of therapeutic.
Go to therapy, people.
Yeah, that's what we've learned here today. Go to therapy.
Go to therapy.
Yeah. Don't let your shit fuck up other people's lives.
Yeah, stop mansplaining. What else?
Channel your like traumatic shit into art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're going to rebel against something, let it be going from one instrument to another.
Exactly.
What else?
We love the ocean.
Yeah, the ocean is healing.
The ocean is sick. Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, you are really fun to talk to.
Yeah, right back at you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That is my job, though. I'm kidding.
Yeah, you are a podcast host.
Yeah. Although some people might disagree. I'm not fun.
I think you're fun.
I don't care.
I think you're fun.
I don't care. So, cheers to your next projects.
Thank you so much.
And I'm really excited to listen to your next
Absolutely.
music.
I'm excited for it to come out.
Yeah.
Cool. Cheers.